In this video, I'm going to look at rearranging formula involving factorizing. Now, if the term that you are making the subject appears more than once, then you will need to factorize at some point so that you can make it to appear only once to be able to make it the subject. So I'll show you what I mean in these examples. So in example 1, we are required to rearrange the formula to make x the subject. Now, what I'm going to do is to factorize x. So I'm going to factorize x to make x appear only once. Okay? So factorize x to make x appear only once, because that's the only way we can be able to make x the subject. So I'll start by factorizing it, which means I'll have to end up with something like this. P is equals to, there's a common factor of x, so take it outside the bracket and create brackets. So x into n plus b. So the fact that we have now x appearing once, we can be able to make it the subject, because the whole goal is to make x the subject. Okay, so the opposite of multiplying by n plus b, because remember n plus b here is a factor. So this is a factor. We can divide each side by n minus, so we can divide each side by n plus b, because you want to separate it or remove it from that side. Now, obviously, n plus b divided by n plus b will be equal to 1. It's just like by dividing, if you divide something by itself, 3 divided by 3, that will be equal to 1. 4 divided by 4, it will be equal to 1. So n plus b divided by n plus b will be equal to 1. Anyway, so what will be left with is x will be equal to p over n plus b. Okay? On the right hand side, we can perform a similar process. So let's start by factorizing. So c will be equal to x into r squared plus 2. And then divide each side by r squared plus 2. So divide by r squared plus 2. Now these guys will cancel to give you 1. So basically x will be equal to c over r squared plus 2. Okay, let's carry on. Example 2, rearrange to make x the subject. Now, when you have brackets, the first thing that you want to do is to get rid of those brackets. So we can start by multiplying out these brackets, foiling, multiplying them out. Okay, so what we shall end up with is mx. It will be equal to bx plus bm. And then what you may want to do is to bring the bx on the left so that you have the x's on one side. So subtract bx, because we want to have these guys on one side. Okay? Anyway, bx minus bx, that will be equal to 0. So what we shall be left with is mx minus bx will be equal to bm. And then factorize out x. So x into m minus b is equals to bm. And then divide each side by m minus b, because we want to be left with the x on one side. This will be equal to 1. So what we shall be left with is x will be equal to bm over m minus b. Example 3, rearrange the following. Rearrange the formula to make x the subject. And it's the same thing like what I said in the previous video. You want to remove any terms not relating to x from one side. So basically remove any terms not relating to x from one side. So basically what I'm going to do is I can start with removing b. So subtract b from each side. So b minus b will be equal to 0. So you'll have ax is equal to cx plus d minus b. And then you want to bring the x's on one side. So subtract cx. Subtract cx. So cx minus cx, that will be equal to 0. So you're left with ax minus cx is equals to d minus b. And then the next step will be factorizing out x. So take out the x. So what we'll be left with is x into a minus c is equals to d minus b. And then you may want to divide by a minus c on each side. This will be gone because a minus c minus divide by a minus c will be equal to 1. So basically our solution here will be x will be equal to d minus b over a minus c. Okay, next example. You may start by expanding brackets, multiplying out these guys. So what you'll end up with is ax plus ac is equals to bx plus bc. Remove any terms not relating to x from one side. So let's start with removing ac from the left. So subtract ac. So these guys will be gone. So what will be left will be ax will be equal to bx plus bc minus ac. Then we want to bring the x's on one side. So subtract bx and subtract bx. Bx minus bx, that will be 0. So what you're left here is with ax minus bx is equals to bc minus ac. The next step is factorizing out x. So take x outside the bracket. A minus b is equals to bc minus ac. We want to be left with x, so divide by a minus b. Divide by a minus b. Now, a minus b divided by a minus b, that will be equal to 1. So x will be equal to bc minus ac over a minus b.